My recording just suddenly stopped. I think we're also feeling the Mercury shadow beginning. So, Mercury shadow retrograde, I hadn't yet mentioned in my beginning of the previous message, but video, but it is a thing, and my recording just stopped for no apparent reason. That's a real Mercury is in shadow kind of thing. So, that's happening this week. Hello, hello, and welcome to another not a Mercury retrograde. There we go. That is also a Mercury retrograde thing, speaking your words wrong or muddling your communication in any way. Anyway, let's try again. So I'm trying to get this weekly reading out, and I have already had a few hurdles and hiccups. So this week is a big one. We are still experiencing Mars in his shadow. However, Mars in his shadow this week, we've experienced it for about a week now. We are getting more solutions around whatever our Mars retrograde vibe was. And here we find ourselves with more focus on Venus having just stationed retrograde yesterday on Sunday. So this is going to be the one that we're going to feel most acutely this week. We also do have a first quarter moon in Gemini. But focusing on the Venus is love, money, and value. And so Venus is going to be bringing us some discomfort around her topics of love, money, and value. So value can be your own earned income and also income earned from others. And it can be to do with what brings value to my life, not just monetarily. Because it starts in Aries, the retrograde, and then it moves back into Pisces, I've brought in some not the nicest smelling oils. This is great for your muscles and great for your immunity, but not so floral and pretty smelling. And same applies for wintergreen. So I decided that Venus retrograding in Aries is almost like a marathon runner who has gotten to this point. She's kind of started sprinting where she should be pacing herself, and she's done herself an injury, and she needs to go back and rest it or ice it or whatever the case may be. And that's annoying. So backward motion in planets is normally, especially the personal planets, is annoying. It brings up stuff. Often with Venus retrogrades, it is romantic issues or romantic partners from the past, or any business partners from the past, friendships from the past. It can have a bit of a mean girl feel. So maybe a mean girl from your past, like a school friend who wasn't a friend, who suddenly becomes a friend, or it can be any number of things. Okay, remember to pick a number between 1 and 4. That'll give you a slightly more personal theme to focus on for the week, but remembering that this is not a personal reading. If you are really already feeling a lot of this and you want more focus, don't hesitate to get in touch. Let's jump in. Have you picked a number? Whoop. There is our whole reading. Wait, focus. There we go. So we have the one major arcana card, and then we have all the suits represented barring the swords, which means we might be a little out of our heads, not off our heads hopefully, but out of our heads more, which is not a bad thing because we are so top heavy as a Western society. So the Lovers is just the perfect theme to start a Venus retrograde reading with, even though this wasn't specifically a Venus retrograde reading. That card is very perfect. The good thing to note is that all of these cards are upright. So in all honesty, this is quite a positive, quite a positive weekly reading for us this week. And I say that with a little uncertainty about what that may mean, because I know that the stationing point of a planet is usually not super comfortable and something is going to happen. So Lovers card really brings in literally lovers, romantic partnerships. That part is fairly obvious, but it's not just that. It's a lot broader than that. It can also be business partnerships. A lot of the things I said just a moment ago about Venus and her themes. It also can be about internal balancing of the yin and the yang within you, or the masculine, feminine. It can be towards finding balance and recognizing dualities. So it goes broader, and that's where these collective readings are my guidance and you figuring out what that means for you. And actually, that's true for a personal reading to a degree as well, but it's obviously a lot more focused and personalized. So the Lovers card for me this week, with Venus stationing retrograde, first quarter moon in Gemini, and the Lovers is actually a Gemini card. So those are both theming in. Gemini is a sign ruled by Mercury. Mercury is also moving into his shadow to go retrograde. And lovers very much is going to represent two people and a masculine feminine dynamic, or a balancing of the yin and yang. Obviously not all couples are a masculine and feminine dynamic, but there will still be a masculine and feminine dynamic within each individual person and with each relationship. So here we're looking at finding that within you. And Mars being the ultimate masculine, who's been on this deep and intense journey since the end of 2024. I think, I'm just trying to think when, I think since, got a tickle, sorry, since October of 2024, I think. All the way till still now, until April, still in this process, okay? But in the latter parts of his, let's call it a medicine journey, shall we? Mars has been on a medicine journey. He's been on this extensively difficult thing, and now he's back home. But he's working through all the things that came up on this journey that he went on. Venus has been preparing for her journey, and her journey has really just begun. And so she's done all the prep work, and now the actual depth begins, because Venus's retrograde is often associated with the myth of Inanna's descent to the underworld. I can't get into that right now in this short video, which is already chomping on. But suffice to say, she is about to do this journey, and Mars is processing his, and then she will have to process hers. Mars will be finishing his altogether, and this is like this overlap of the yin yang all year. This is going to be happening. Mercury is retrograding in the same degrees that Venus is retrograding. He'll move faster through his process, but he's doing the same journey from Aries into Pisces, almost to the point of the exact degrees that they are each traveling. There is a lot between the masculine and feminine going on so many levels I can't even bring up in this time. But do expect themes around this to show up strongly for you, whether it is in your intimate relationship with your partner, your spouse, whether it is in an intense situation with a close friend or a colleague or a boss or a business partner, whether an old love returns unexpected and you're like, I didn't expect this to be a potential on my radar, or that old friend from school who was a mean girl and turns out is quite nice now. There's multiple ways this can show up, but anything that starts showing up around these themes, pay attention to, because that's where the work needs to be happening for you. Then the good news is that Six of Wands is a, winner's circle kind of card. So Aries, which is where Venus is going to start her retrograde, it's where Mercury is starting his retrograde, and where a lot is going on this year, is very much the pioneer, trendsetter, and wanting to win at all costs. Aries is very competitive. So this is just a reminder that, hey, you're winning. And I feel like it's kind of a little, prelude's not the right word, but it's kind of just like build up. It's building us up to go, hey, I'm awesome. I've got this. I'm doing this. And I suggest you start speaking to yourself that way, rather than in the unkind manner and in a critic kind of voice that we do tend to speak to ourselves in, because next week is a total lunar eclipse in Virgo, the sign of the inner critic. And in that Virgo energy, we do tend to criticize. So I really suggest you start building yourself up as much as you can this week, in terms of, I've survived all of my worst days so far. I am safe. All is well. I've got this. Just whatever words you need to say to yourself, speak them as much as you can. Look in the mirror and say these things to yourself. Keep going, because that eclipse might really rattle your belief in yourself. This can be partly also that Venus retrograde that will rattle that. And then, of course, that Virgo eclipse, total eclipse next week. Because this is also priming us for the next card, which is a walkaway card, as you can see. It's telling us you have to leave things behind. So in order to maintain this winning streak of doing the inner work and growth and expansion and success, that is coming to you has come to you. You cannot keep doing the same things and expect different results in terms of the things that are not working, that have been unhealthy, toxic, old mental patterns that just don't work for you anymore, and big time old relationships that don't serve you anymore. When Venus is retrograde, we are going to look at relationships, and this week the theme begins with that. So there's no getting around that you are going to have to shed some people from your life, almost certainly. If you're lucky, you can shed the dynamic you hold with a person, but not the whole person. But to be honest, that's quite a hard thing to do, because that requires both people to really be prepared to do the work on that. For both people to really be able to say, we're not going to carry on this pattern. You're going to help me to break it, and I'm going to help you to break it, and we've got this. And normally that's not what happens in relationships. One person decides this is no longer working. One person starts to make the changes and the other person doesn't. And it gets so challenging to be in relationship with them that something's got to give. But the fact of the matter is, with the Eight of Cups showing up for us right now, in order to keep this winning streak, you need to know what to let go. You need to accept it. It might hurt a little. It might make you feel a little bit vulnerable, like you have shed a skin. Remember, we're still in the year of the snake, as we will be for the next 11 months, so more. So it's very important to be open with yourself that you need to shed. However, remember, when you take off a layer of skin that has become toughened and hardened to face the world, you are vulnerable and soft underneath it, and that is not always an easy place to be. But with every day, that skin will get a little stronger and a little tougher, and the new pattern that you're busy working in will become more comfortable, more known. Because the reality is, and remember, Mercury, our mind, is about to do a retrograde, go into a shadow and then retrograde as well. We want what is known. Our brains would rather repeat a pattern that is known, because there is comfort for our brain in the known pattern, even if it is a toxic pattern, even if it is literally creating pain and trauma and all of that, but it is known, versus the terrifying space for your brain of the unknown. So when you're breaking patterns, this is no small thing. This takes practice, this takes vigilance, this takes support and tools, and it helps to have somebody in your corner who can guide you in the direction of, what tools can I use, because I keep going back into the pattern and I really, really want to break it. And here, winning at breaking the pattern, if you do the walking away, if you do the shedding. And then our final card is a community card. So you don't have to do that alone. So interesting, you're alone in the winner's circle. You're alone in the walking away. Those are decisions that only you can make. But you're not alone in life. You're not alone in all the spaces. And that, I think, is really, really important to remember. Community, collaboration, working together, caring about not just yourself and your own shit, for want of a better word, because doing the deep inner work is very much about you. You go deeply into your own things, your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own traumas, and it's very me focused, which as it should be, but you do not live in isolation. So when you come up for air, you still need to be a kind, compassionate person who has other people's needs in your mind's eye and in your heart as well. So what's going on with them and their traumas, because more and more of us are doing this deep work to be that wave of change that the world needs. And that can be a very isolating place to be. And so community, collaboration, creative projects, doing things that are philanthropic, just getting together for a games night, going for a walk with friends, whatever it is, these are very, very important. They are grounding. Pentacles is the earth energy. They are grounding. They are grounding this human experience and making it not just all about self, which is very important. So you can see how we start the week with a one-to-one relational dynamic, or we start the reading more than the week so much, but the one-to-one relational dynamic, more intimate relationships, you and me having a one-on-one connection, and also that internal dynamic of that yin-yang within you. Then we focus on, where are my wins? How am I doing well in my life? Build myself up, because it's hard. This is eclipse season. It's not supposed to be a walk in the park. So work on building yourself up. This will really give you the fire, the buoyancy to keep going through the eclipse cycle. And then the slightly more challenging part of the week is remembering, well, I mean, for some people are quite good at shedding and cutting, but most of us, myself included, do not love it and resist it at all costs. And this is saying, don't resist it. What you resist persists. Accept that it is time to walk away from certain things. And you will be rewarded. Gifts come for us when we let go of the thing that we know we need to let go and that we feel resistance in. Like when we sacrifice something that feels hard, the universe comes back in and gives you things. You just have to breathe and go through those waves of emotion. It's far from easy, okay? Let's be honest. It's far from easy. And then remember not to stay in that isolation, stay in the grieving process and the vulnerable newness of a walking away process. Remember to reach out to friends. Remember to help somebody else, to ask for help if you need help. But sometimes helping other people also takes you out of the soup of your own intense emotion. So I would highly recommend that as well. Okay, this reading's gotten a little longer than I usually like to go, so I'm going to sign off now. But thank you so much for watching and have a beautiful week.